Over the last 4 years, we've watched the Biden administration sit idly by as foreign nations launched a full-scale attack on American companies. I'm thankful that these days are over and we now have a president who will advocate for American businesses and engage with our allies and spur domestic manufacturing. Last Congress, I introduced the Protecting American Advanced Manufacturing Act to eliminate the access to American tax dollars that Chinese-linked manufacturers currently enjoy in the 45X manufacturing tax credit. 45X is the very credit meant to level the playing field for domestic manufacturing, and yet the Chinese companies continue to take American tax dollars, and we urgently need to address this. Another concern more directly related to this hearing is the very same Chinese-linked manufacturers who are circumventing tariffs and putting U.S. manufacturers at risk. The manufacturers in my district that produce aluminum, titanium, and steel have been victim to these tactics, as China ships considerable amounts of steel and aluminum through Mexico before entering the United States, effectively avoiding the tariffs imposed on these products. I am concerned that the plants that are in my district and around the country are being harmed as bad actors enter the U.S. by circumventing their products through other countries. Circumvention decreases the revenue we collect through tariffs and puts American jobs at risk in our market, as it is flooded unfairly and subsidized and with priced products. Ambassador Garish, how can the U.S. strengthen cooperation with allies and trading partners in order to prevent bad actors from using third countries to evade duties while we ensure compliance with our international trade commissioners?
Thank you, Congresswoman. And I think there are several actions that we could take to get better cooperation from our trading partners. One is to establish customs cooperation agreements with our counterparts for customs and border protection in other countries to get them to crack down on transshipment. You're absolutely right. The problem with transshipment and evasion and other efforts to get around the duties is a significant problem. But we can have our customs authorities work with their customs authorities and try to get better cooperation in cracking down on these efforts. We made efforts to do that in the first Trump administration with Vietnam. Unfortunately, the problems with Vietnam have continued to a massive degree, and they continue to be a problem. Now, the other thing we can do, and this is, of course, more of a stick, but we can potentially do investigations under Section 301 to investigate the lack of action being taken by customs authorities, where they not only turn a blind eye, but maybe even facilitate the kinds of evasion and transshipment and circumvention practices that occur. And I think that should be something that another tool that should be applied to try to address this problem.
Thank you. And I'd like to now shift to digital trade. Trade partnerships are a two-way street, and I have serious concerns that some of our partners aren't holding up their end of the bargain. Last Congress, I introduced the U.S. Republic of Korea Digital Trade Enforcement Act that protects American digital companies if Korea passes a law that harms digital businesses. It's my understanding that the Republic of Korea is still pursuing this legislation, albeit under the guise of a so-called ex post framework that covertly still targets specific U.S. companies. Mr. McHale, do you believe both the Online Platform Monopoly Regulation Act and the Korean Fair Trade Commissioner's ex post approach amount to discrimination against U.S. companies? And do you believe that the Trump administration should seek trade and other enforcement remedies to ensure this type of Korean discrimination against the U.S. company no longer occurs?
Thank you. Yes. The short answer is yes. If you look at the service definitions and the thresholds that the Korea Fair Trade Commission's proposal institutes, both are clearly aimed at targeting U.S. firms. Even though some Korean companies may be swept in, the key question is, does it put the U.S. firms at a competitive disadvantage when competing in the market? What we've seen is that Chinese companies are rapidly coming into the market. They I think the revenues are now up to $2 billion a year. They would not fall within the thresholds or service definitions from what I understand. So U.S. companies are competing against both Korean companies and Chinese companies in the market based on specific definitions that are subject through this proposed law to fines, prohibited conduct, and injunctive action that are not applicable to their competitors. For me, that looks like discrimination.